took away. That's the best. Get your money's worth. Now, that was it.
What are you expecting from Joe?
Not what you just said. No. I think Joe probably senses how erratic of a situation or of organization, or fan base or following or history he's dealing with. And I would assume that he's probably going to come in and try to bring some sense of calm. I think he's going to try to stabilize. I think a lot of things that Ross mentioned, is, great, right? Like he's going to be the adult in the room. I don't think he's going to come out and say any outlandish statements. He's not going to try to be a politician. He's not going to try to say any big words to go over your head. He's not going to try to sell you anything outside of what you're actually looking at. Joe's won on multiple levels, no matter how long ago it was. I expect him to be brutally honest and genuine. And I mean, we'll see what that is worth in regards to the actual job and what happens behind the scenes with Bryson and his ability to teach. Because I mean, and to be honest, Justin, I expect someone that I mean, he's not here for a 10-year run.
Right.
Joe's 62 years old, I believe. Like you're not bringing Joe Dumars in to just to for this 5-year rebuild of sorts, especially when he hasn't done this in a minute. I think you're going to bring him in for his connections, his presence, and his overall reputation when it comes to dealing with people. So, and I think if I had to guess, I think that will be his goal, will be some of the things that we'll be able to notice when he sits down Tuesday.
Go ahead, Jared.
Man, again, to Chris's point, I just hope he just comes in and tells the truth, right? Like, start off with the truth, right? Because I think this fan base has heard so many lies or promises that weren't kept, and word salads about nothingness. I just want Joe to tell the truth. And again, this is me saying this. It's a black man coming into a situation being asked to fix something that he didn't break. Time and time again throughout history, that continues to happen. But this is just another example of it. Joe probably walked in the building like, man, why y'all still sleeping on the floor? They got beds, right? Like, why y'all still doing things like this? Like, what is going on here? And he looking around like, oh, this is kind of how we've been doing it. This is what happens. So hopefully he actually impacts change. And I know it's going to be a super long process to do and to overcome, and obstacles to overcome. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's already won at multiple levels. He's been involved with the league and expanding the league. There's a multitude of things that anybody just around him could learn. I just hope the Pelicans can take advantage of that.
And that's well said between Chris and Jarrett. Like, Joe Dumars is a professional. I think I was watching y'all talk to Kushner the other night. Like, Dumars is very well respected. He's a professional. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a winner. Like, this dude, like, I don't have a problem. Like, we keep saying the problem's not Joe Dumars. And like a lot of people, of course, on Twitter who are just, well, it's neither here nor there. Like, they take it the wrong way. The problem's not Joe Dumars. We're going to give him his shot. Like, I want to see him turn it around. I think he actually can. The problem was the process. And I'm going to get to Stein's article here in a little bit because he also mentions, just like what the Kings did. I saw one of y'all sent a comment with a handshake between Kings and Pelicans, like, of doing your due diligence, right? Well, there have now been reports that, and I've heard this too, that, the Pelicans made this decision 4 weeks ago. Like, Joe Dumars was president of basketball operations 4 weeks ago. Maybe they did their research then. I don't know. It just happened very quickly. And like, to what y'all were saying, I would have liked to see a little bit more thorough process instead of it being one of the friends of the ownership group. But Ross, what are your expectations from Joe? And do you believe in him? Like, do you think he can actually implement change and get this franchise where it's like an actual like a professional basketball team? Because under David Griffin, it was an absolute shit show, and we're gonna get into that. There was no accountability, like, across the board, across the entire board. There was no accountability. But go ahead, Ross.
Yeah, I kind of think you can. I mean, yeah, as far as the press conference goes, I think I have nothing additional to add other than basically what Chris and Five already said. I think he'll come in and not say anything crazy. I'm hoping for, because I saw one of the comments earlier said something along the lines of like, was Griff not professional? And I know you said we'll talk about that. I think Joe Dumars is going to be totally different than Griff. And I think that's a 180 that can impact change. I really do. I think the thing that worries me for Joe is just like the actual decision-making part. Like, is he willing to delegate some of those things? Is he willing to like let others work with him, and in some cases like for him, and do the parts of their job that they're probably, potentially very good at. But otherwise, like I'm with you, Justin. Like, I was critical of the way the decision was made, but like I don't necessarily think it was the worst decision. In hindsight, like I think it can work. I really do, and I'm certainly willing to give it a chance.
See, this is, and look, and you can have your own opinion. I'm not saying you're wrong, Omar. I'm just saying, like, the draft, like, look, you look at his history, it's bad. Like, I agree with you. He can't draft, but like, it is hard to nail the draft. It's really fucking hard.
And
obviously,
Justin,
he had the Darko pick, but
this is the part that I think is very important, because these same folks, and I'm not just pointing out whoever said this,
Omar.
But these are a lot of times the same people that have been complimenting the previous, like the David Griffin era, which basically everyone is still there, of how great they drafted, and finding Eves and finding Herb and finding Trey and finding Jose and all these people everybody wants to give you credit for. Well, like all of the people that found them are, as far as I understand, still in the building. So like either give Joe a shot or don't. But like holding his feet to the fire over this draft and saying, we knew he couldn't do it. To me, that's you're going in, like if that's your mentality right now, then you're going to get exactly what you think you're going to get out of this, which is not very much.
Positivity on this show, it's crazy. Go ahead,
Ross. Who drafted Anthony Bennett?
I believe that was Mr. Griffin.
Okay, all right. And then what the fuck are we really talking about, bro? Like, it's a crapshoot with the draft. It's a total crapshoot. And if the guys that are doing the research, and that's why I always judge teams based on the later picks, right? Because the top two, well, top 3, 4, 5, right? Those are almost a given on any given year, right? You can find really good, high talented people. Yeah. That we could talk about the Darko pick. That wasn't necessarily on Joe, and that's like been well documented.
Yep, that's also
that was
true.
almost like an ownership deal, not just Joe picking it. But for that being said, like you judge teams and their ability to draft on them being able to hit on the second round picks or the mid first round picks to late 20s. Like that's real scouting. That's real development. That's real like, okay, this is what we do well. This is what we're trying to do. That's how you really, grade a team on how they draft and development.
And can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go. One more thing. Shout out Lito.
Shout out Lito for sure. The reason that I'm willing to like give this hire a chance is because if you'd have asked me before, hey, what's more important, go and get an expert or go and get a leader? I think this organization needs a leader way more than they need an expert, a draft expert or any of that stuff. And so I'm potentially willing to acknowledge and accept that maybe Joe isn't the world's best in some of those things, but I'm expecting him to be a better leader than Griff was. And I think that's going to be more important in the long run.
Yeah. Agreed with that. Damn, I actually had a question. I just completely blanked. Make sure you smash the like button. What'd you
Somebody said, I think it was Donald. Hopefully Donald's playing. He said ownership wanted diversity. Listen, apparently the other side of diversity wasn't working. So, we got.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask. Sorry. I mean, what happens? Whoever wants to answer this question first, Chris. Like, I just will Chris. Then we'll go Jared. And then Ross.
Okay.
What happens to Swing Cash? What happens to Bryson Graham? Like, what happens? Because look, I've talked to a lot of people. Most of the coach staff don't know what's going on. they're in limbo. They don't know if they're coming back. They don't know. I'm telling you, they don't know. What do you think happens now though with the higher ups of the swing cashes of the world, the Bryson Grahams? Because look, I personally want Bryson to stay. I want to see what he can do with this draft because look, he did great with Eves, and I think he did great with Antonio Reeves. And that took some. Me and Jared talked about that took some foresight to see Antonio Reeves to trade back in the second round. That was a great move. Do you think at least Bryson will retain the general manager role?
I think so. A lot of people in the Pelicans building seem to have high praise for Bryson. So if we're talking about an organization or ownership group that has been in contact with Joe for a while, I'm sure Joe probably has some type of relationship with Bryson, to be honest. It's not like Joe's walking it off the street, right? Like he knows a lot of these faces and a lot of these people. And that's why, I mean, now that I think about it, I don't know how much there is for him really to evaluate at this point. I kind of feel like if there were going to be any personnel changes, we may have already heard about them happening.
What do you think? Maybe not gone public yet? Maybe they haven't gone public yet, but they've informed.
Yeah, but you gotta feel like we would have heard something by now.
I know I'll tell you the coaches, no clue.
I got you, but I guess you gotta expect Joe to bring in some people that he trusts, right? You know, some people from maybe his days in Detroit or maybe Sacramento, somebody else in the building that he wants around. Now I don't know what those people are going to look like, but when you think about almost every recent change that I can think of this organization doing, whether it was coaching or whether it was the executive role, they hardly ever clean house. So maybe one person leaves, maybe Swin, but you should bet every time that a good majority of these people are going to leave from the coaching staff. It doesn't matter. They tend, at least for that first year, they tend to hold on to a lot of people from the same, the previous regime. So I don't expect any major change. Maybe one person leaves, but I just can't see it from what their history would tell me.
Well, Jared, I know that he was interested in bringing over who I'm forgetting them, blank on the name, but the Kings.
Scott Perry.
Yeah, Scott Perry, right? So they worked in Detroit. He was interested in bringing Scott Perry over, I think, to be who knows what. You're not with Dumars, at least you're not gonna get like made up like titles that Griffin made up, like it's fucking Dunder Mifflin over here. But Jared, do you think that Bryson can stay? And then also, like, if he does stay, do you think that Joe will, put some faith and some trust with Graham and be like, look, you're the general manager. You're making the decisions. I'm not going to be David Griffin. I'm here to oversee everything. Like, this is your gig. Like, you go.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, Joe Dumars does not strike me as a man that gives out his trust easily, right? Like, that's something that you have to earn. So it might be a time where, okay, say Bryson stays, like he's going to have to prove it to Joe. I think if you have a president of basketball, what isn't that the title that he has, right? President of basketball operations.
Yeah, I guess so.
We still still haven't got a clear explanation on that. But like whatever his position is, if he's overseeing Bryson, like that tandem has to be like super connected. And I think early on, it might be some growing pains. It might be some tough conversations that need to happen, which is going to be good for Bryson. But that's saying Bryson's going to stay, right? Like that's saying that they choose Bryson. They're going to nurture Bryson again. I think he's been around the team, 15 years, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I think this is his 15th year. Yep.
Why give up on an investment like that? Like if it's working out, continue to nurture it to a point where it can bear some fruit, right? I don't think Bryson's been bad at his job. I just don't think he's been given the responsibility truly to struggle and succeed at his job.
Yeah. All right. Ross, we'll start with you. It's a new segment here. Make sure you smash the like button. About 170 people in here on a Sunday night talking about one of the worst teams in the league. So appreciate y'all. Always somehow show out. even during WrestleMania, NBA playoffs. So stay here. So once again, now we have 170 people in here. We're going live in the off season on Wednesday and Sunday. Next week, though, we will be live Tuesday night breaking down the Joe Dumars press conference like we did with David Griffin. It won't be a total shit show. So hopefully there's some professionalism there.